Welcome to the fourth video of the Astute Graphics plugins tutorial, making these horse characters. If you are lost, you might want to go back a couple of videos. There should be a playlist somewhere. We have gone through the sketching phase, digitizing it, bringing in all of the vector shapes, and bringing in color and a couple of details using things like Dynamic Sketch, InkScribe, and PathScribe. Go check out the other videos if you haven't seen them. And now we will do a couple of quick final effects. So this is generally where I left you off, and you can see I added a few extra details, these, sock details, some of these I probably used Dynamic Sketch for, some of these curly cues, but largely this is where I left you off in the last video. And what we're gonna do now is just give a couple of roughening effects. There's a Perturb effect with Astute Graphics, and overall we're gonna make a graphic style that we can apply to a whole group. And it will be a live effect that's non-destructive. And you can also download this graphic style through the Astute Manager, which I can quickly show you here. If you go to your Astute Manager and you come to Astute Library, there are graphic styles where I have not yet, but we will make sure that we upload the Bonehouse or Kirk Wallace demo effect that you'll see. You'll have Illustrator closed. You can click download. When you open it, it should show up in your graphic styles panel, which will be here. If you don't have it, again, it's window, graphic styles. And then over here, you can open up the graphic style and you'll find it probably somewhere in this list. And I have it here called Perturb White Stroke. Again, it'll probably have a different name, but we'll make sure that it's a very easily explainable one. But first, let's show how we create that graphic style. So if I double click in, I have this whole illustration as a group. I didn't do this hair, but I'm actually going to remove it for now. So this is all grouped together. If I double click in, I also grouped just the characters together. What I want to do is create a little bit of a white outline around here just for contrast. And of course I could go through with my Astute Graphics InkScribe and create it that way. There's an easier way to do it. I select this whole thing and come in here and I can add a new stroke to this whole group. So if I do that, here's the stroke that I created. I'm going to set it to be white, and I'm going to crank it up to 10, maybe even 20 for a moment just to show you. Depending on where I drag it, if I drag it above the contents, it'll put that stroke above everything. I can drag it below the content, it way back here. So now the stroke is basically showing up underneath all of the elements of the group. And I think 10 is going to work. So that's nice, but it's a little bit too perfect. So what I also want to do is on the same group, I want to use Perturb. So let's make sure that you would have that installed. It is a different plugin. You would have this under here. I believe it's somewhere down here called Randomino. Has a lot of cool things. I don't use a ton of them, but I do use the Perturb function of it. So once that's installed, you go down to Randomino, Perturb. What this does, it's really subtle. I'll pop up the tools over here and you can change the distance. And what it does is it moves shapes in a little kinky sort of random way. And if I say ignore group, instead of moving the whole group together, it actually will start moving every shape inside of the group. I don't want it to be a lot. I just want it to be a little bit of a wiggle just to make it feel a little bit more wonky. You can add a certain amount of crinkle, and let's make it maybe something like 1.5 point, maybe a little higher just for the sake. And again, I can always come back here because this is under the appearance panel of this group. I can turn it on and off. You can see what it can also always click on it and it will open back up and I can change. So let's have it try to be something like that. And I can move the Perturb effect up and down as well and have it apply to only certain things. So maybe if I wanted to apply to everything, I have it on top, but I might want it to only apply to the stroke. So I can drop it down the stroke. That way the shape itself doesn't get affected. It's just affecting the stroke. And then I also do one more thing that is an effect, distort and transform. And this is called roughen. This is a really handy one too. This is normally kind of crazy, but if you set it to absolute and maybe change it to just 1 pixel, maybe even 0.5 and bring the detail up a lot, it creates this nice fuzziness. And it's a little bit too hectic now, but when I hit OK, what I can do is it's rendering the roughen above the Perturb. I actually want it to go underneath. So what it does is it adds the Perturb first and then the roughen after. And what it does is it puts this nice little roughen effect on the stroke itself. What I could also do is if I can drag this roughen around, but I can also hold down Alt and duplicate that roughen effect and drag it outside of the stroke altogether and just have it be back here. So what it first does is it roughens the whole thing and then it roughens the shape. I might even be able to remove this roughen, the stroke. I don't need that. So basically I'm roughening it and then I'm adding a Perturb to the stroke. And what it does is it creates this smart dynamic, because now you'll see if I move any object, it applies that effect a lot. It'd be really handy because now without having to go through and trace everything all around it, I created this kind of wonky, nice white outline around everything. What I can do is I can go to graphic styles. As long as I have this group selected with all these different things in it, come here to graphic styles, go here and I say new graphic style and I can just name it whatever I want. And then you can download that graphic style through the Astute Manager and have it to be able to apply to your illustrations as well. You can also modify it once you've downloaded it and make it your own. And one final little detail tip that I like to do often that I kind of forgot honestly earlier, but it makes this video feel a little bit more substantive, is I use something called Space Fill, which is a part of the Kaleidoscribe plugin, which is here. Again, it's up top here. Make sure you have Illustrator closed. You want to install Kaleidoscribe, open up Illustrator, and then you'll have a panel here called Space Fill. If you don't have it, it's under Window, Astute Graphics, and Space Fill. With this, Space Fill is really cool. Let me show you a demo of what it does. If I have a circle like this, and let's say I want to fill it, I want to fill this space with another shape, maybe a circle, smaller circle, that's purple. Okay, so normally what I could do is do this, alt drag, keep dragging them around, but maybe I also want them to be different sizes, or maybe heck, they're little squares or rectangles, and I want them to be different angles and different sizes. It could take forever, especially if it's a complex path, stuff like that. So instead what I do is, let me take one of these rectangle shapes, something like this, and I'll move it out here just so you can see. I'll highlight that and I'll highlight the shape I want to put it in. And then when I go up here, Space Fill, I hit Make, and it automatically fills it. So this is too many. So let me drop the amount of them, multiply filling art, 25, let's maybe set to 10, okay? Maybe 15. And I like the varying rotation, that's good. I'll have it rotate all the way, but I could set it to just like only rotate 5 degrees. So they're just like wonky little lines. And maybe that actually works. Maybe he's got like a striped rain camo kind of thing. And we can also vary the opacity, which I don't want to do. We can vary the size, which is nice. And let's just maybe vary it like 1.5. So some of them are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller. I can even shrink the entire artwork down to like 50%. So something like that, about more. And maybe it's 1.3. There we go. And now that stays a live effect. So if I change any of this at all, it will apply to the whole shape. So what I can do is for this character's pants, I could do maybe just a line like that. I think that'll work. And then I'll grab this shape and the pant shape and do Make. And it'll grab the previous settings that I had. So there's maybe not quite enough. So I'll up it like 60. That'll work. And then let's do the same over here. Grab the shape, put it right in here, and Make. And now they both have that. You can see that they're different sizes, but it's based on a stroke. So I want the stroke to be consistent in this style. So what I can do is I can direct select this shape and go up here and say expand. Now what it does is expands the whole shape. So if I double click in, I've got all of these as a shape and I have the same size as all the other artwork. I can also go through and manually change anything I want if there's one random point that's not quite right. And now he's got that. Do it over here, or she or other, same thing, expand and click that. And now she's got this cool pattern effect in her pants super quickly. And you can think if, you know, maybe you want a sky to have a bunch of leaves in it, but you don't want to put leaves everywhere. You just kind of draw a shape for the sky, make a leaf, and then apply it. And there's like a million different ways you can do it. Now, one or two final little fun tricks, just because I have this appearance panel that I'm using. Sometimes I'm never sure if I want my artwork to be smooth or sharp or mix of both. And so let's say this fist is feeling a little bit too perfect for me. And what I can do is select this one shape, and because I have a lot going on this layer, it's gonna be a little bit slow, but I'll show you. Grab this shape and I go down to the effects and I go to AG utilities and I can do a couple things. One that I like to do is called retract handles. And it's fun. What it does is it takes any handles, Bezier handles that are out, and it snaps them and contracts them. But it does it dynamically and in a live sense. So I say, okay, and it hasn't changed artwork. I still have my underlying circular fist shape, but it's pretending like all of these are actually contracted, even though they're not. And what I can do, it's a little bit too low poly, so to speak. So I can go to my path scribe, go here, and I can say add points to selected segments, which is also here. And if I click that, it's just adding a point at every halfway in between the other segments. So if I do that again, you can see it's starting to get rounder. So right there is kind of a sweet spot where I haven't really disturbed my overall shape. I can always turn this off and I have my original shape. But when it's on, you see, it's adding this retracted handles effect. And I can do that randomly to like anything and just see what happens. So like, let's see what happens if I do it to this horse fact, AG utilities, retract handles, and it just makes it more sharp. I could even go crazy and apply it to this whole illustration and see what happens if I never did any curvy drawing. So you can see here, if I retract the handles, what it does is it kind of creates this more like cubist style. And like in certain areas, it's not great. Like this hand is kind of a mess now, but certain things are kind of fun. Like this horse head and eyes, really interesting. Or maybe I just want to apply it just to this face, right? Maybe it's like this cool kind of archaic style. So let me go here I'm going to remove that effect. And I'm realizing, actually, let's just apply it only to this face. And luckily, I already grouped everything. So this whole inner here is grouped. So I'm just going to apply it just to this group and do retract. And now I have this kind of cool low poly effect for anything. And then when I'm presenting the work, sometimes in my portfolio, I like to show that the vector points are really clean and stuff. So what I can do is one more effect that I like is, let's grab a shape that we like, something where maybe we're proud of the vector points, like this. This is a good, like this. And I want to show off how I built it, like a behind the scenes sort of thing. So if I select this shape, I can go to Effects, AG Utilities, and it's called Path Visualizer. And what it does, and I can change the scale a little bit here to like 200. It shows me the vector points as well as the Bezier handles, and I can change the color that it shows it as, maybe like a bright pink or something, just to kind of show. And you can have it above or below, but I like to have it be above. And I'm realizing in real time, maybe this isn't the perfect shape to have done it with. Let's do it to another shape that's maybe a little bit more interesting. Maybe something like this one. I'll just pull this out. I want to like show off how few points I put here, right? Because I'm kind of proud. So I can go here, Effects, AG Utilities, Path Visualizer. Now look how proud I am. Like, let's set it to 200, show how good we are at vector points, and to show, look, they're all on vertical tangencies except these ones, which I guess I should fix. But in general, we're really proud of our points. And as we update it, because again, it's a live effect, it's showing it. And I can always go ahead and click it and just turn that off, turn it on. It's just a fun way to kind of show off the nerdiness of vector illustration. And it's cool for portfolio, right? Because now we have something like that. You can also use it as a stylization thing, which I'm not really sure exactly how to do yet, but I thought it was a fun way to show off. And with all of that, I think that generally completes our illustration. From here, I would take it into Photoshop and do a little bit of texturing, which is not in the scope of this one, but yeah, maybe in the future I can do that over on my YouTube channel. Nevertheless, we kind of go full circle to recap and show that we started with our sketch. We did a lot of vector scribe, ink scribe, dynamic sketch to create our shapes. We made a basic color pass. Then we used a lot of the fun tools in Astute Graphics to add some of these shadow shapes, some of these detail lines. Notice we added socks and stuff like that. And then we added some effects, this roughening, that white outline, some of that perturb, and we get something like that. And then we could later bring it into Photoshop and apply some halftoning and textures and get something like this. I am so hopeful that this was relatively helpful. And I hope that if you have any questions, you will leave them as comments down below. We'd be happy to answer all of the questions that you have. Don't forget, there is a free trial, 7 days. You can try all of the plugins out, get hooked on them, love them, and then apply them to your workflow. I've been using these tools for many, many years, well over a decade, so it takes time to get used to them. But my trick, once again, is just start with 1 or 2 plugins at a time, learn them a little bit, let them replace some of your natural workflow in Illustrator. And then from there, you'll get hooked and you'll keep exploring a new plugin every week or something like that. Thank you for your patience watching this. I hope it was helpful. And I'll see you on the internet. All right, later.